Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots.com, and today I am sharing a Valentine Gnomes compilation list. We have Dollar Tree Gnomes, quick project gnomes, free patterns, and everything in between. All of these videos were previously aired, so please excuse the introductions. Now, let's get started. Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots.com, and today I'm sharing a pool noodle Cupid gnome with a cute kickback leg. If you'd like to make it, just boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, I have been asked for these for a long time, but never liked how light they were. So I'm going to show you how I'm weighting them and also how to make the fun details like the wings and the feet and everything. I also will show you how I have the bendable and movable arms without ripping through the center of this guy. So I have a lot of people ask me for my drawings because I draw all of these guys. There you go, quick little view. I started out by cutting a Dollar Tree pool noodle at 4 inches, and then I'm going to be using, you can use anything wood or solid. I'm using a dowel, but you can also use a pencil and a wooden Christmas ornament that already is pre-drilled with a hole. And the reason is because the dowels fit right in. Bam! And I did get those wood ornaments from Michael's, but they have them at every craft store. My first step in making sure the pool noodle gnome is solid is to masking tape an X on the bottom, making sure that I can fill it without issue. And this is actually going to end up being the top. So I'm just going to wrap a little bit of secure masking tape around the outside and then move on to designing the legs. So for the first leg, I'm going to use the dowel. The second one's going to be 14 gauge wire you can get at Home Depot or other big box supply stores. And we're going to end up using a Dollar Tree large foam roller for both of the legs. I cut 7 inches of dowel, and I'm going to sharpen one end in my electric sharpener so I can pop it up into the body. So ensure that it's flat because you do need a solid seal when we're done here. And then I'm just going to go right back of center, and I'm going to pop that all the way up so it has 3 inches open between the wood ornament and the body, because I can cut this this foam roller in half and get 3 inches for both. All right, so I'm just gonna pop that right on. I end up piercing right through there, oops, but we're gonna cover it so it doesn't matter anyway. Just make sure that you do have the part at the bottom going through the pool, or going through the wood ornament is all wood. All right, so for the second leg, I'm going to use that 14 gauge wire, and I'm actually going to bend one end so it doesn't poke anybody, and I'm going to slide on my foam cut and add an additional 2.5 to 3 inches of the wire so that I can put that up and it's solid in the body. And all I'm going to do is pop that up and just make sure that both of them align so they're the same height before moving on. And I do recommend popping that out before you do your little kick leg to make sure you like where your bend is, but that way you don't rip through the pool noodle. All right, so you can see this is what mine's going to look like. Just kind of center the body over the wood ornament, because here's where we're going to weight it. Do not glue down the rocks in the top couple of inches. And the reason is because we're going to go through that in a little bit for our arms. At the bottom couple of inches, wow, I'm really good at getting all of those in there. At the bottom couple inches out, I'm going to use a layer of hot glue, a layer of rocks, layer of hot glue and rocks, all the way to make it flush to the bottom of this pool noodle, because that way I can just secure the bottom. And I'll even shake this for you so you can see how much or how little the sound is. I've gotten a little better since this, but I'm just adding the masking tape the same way and then securing. Listen. See? It barely moves and shakes and jostles. So that's what I was going for. All right, so I'm just going to make my little secure wrap around the entire part at the bottom, and then we can move on to actually building our gnome. For the body, I'm using this like cream colored fleece. I had it in my stash, and I'm just cutting about the 4 inches there and just gluing it onto the body all the way around. So my hot glue gun will melt the foam, so it's really good that I have that masking tape, just because it A, helps hide that the glue, and then B, it makes sure I have a solid hold. Excuse me. For the seam in the back, I didn't want to overlap, so I put a lot of hot glue right along that edge, pressed in the one side, and before it set all the way, I just flipped it back and cut it off really closely to the body with some very sharp scissors. And then I'm going to pull apart that seam and press the two edges into each other. There you go. And this is what it looks like. Just helps to make it a little less bumpy in the back. For the legs, I did the exact same thing. I just cut 3 inches of the fleece and then wrapped it around. For my standing leg, I wanted a knee, so I just added a little bit of hot glue and then some polyfill and shaped that into a little ball. If you have a pom-pom in the same color fleece that you're using, you could use that as well. Wad up some scraps, whatever you've got. Or you can not have a knee, you know? This is yours. You do what you want. But I made a knee. And then I just ended up gluing the entire fleece around the foam roller here. And then I did the seam the exact same way. And you can hide the seam in the center because, again, none of our legs are glued down. So if you want to just turn the seams to the center, you can do that as well. But do make sure that you make sure the bottom is trimmed because we need a solid join right here. So you can see mine fits in perfectly. For the back leg, I just undid the wire, straightened it out a bit, and did the same exact thing. I had no knee on this one because I'm going to add the bend. Pop the wire back in, and then put it back in. Now for the feet, I'm going to make a template, and I made a kidney bean. And I made a kidney bean and then added like where the toes would be, just in this shape. And you'll see, I'm going to add a seam allowance, 1/4, because I'm going to be making the foot smaller. So I want to end with the final size without the seam allowance. So just add 1/8 of an inch all the way around your template. One of the feet, you're going to make 2 of those. So you put right sides together, trace 2. And one of the feet, you're just going to make 1 whole foot and a 1/2 foot. So I'm just going to add these 2 together. Again, right sides are both facing out. I'm going to add as little glue as I can possibly add, and then I'm going to squeeze the glue out towards the edges, and that's going to allow me to press in the 2 edges of fleece. So if you work with fleece, you know that it's got a pretty thick cut, and if you don't press the 2 edges together, it's just going to look, well, like you got 2 edges of uncut fleece, right? Or of cut fleece. So once I had the front down, I just added a little bit of polyfill in, stuffed it in, and then added this, or did the same technique on the back, just by pressing the glue out. And you can see right there, I'm just going to wipe it away. And if it comes out, I end up just cutting it off, right? So, because it's dry and you can cut it off with scissors. But I'm just going to add the glue, press them together, and just point the 2 edges into each other, making it as small as I can get it, making that, seam as small as I can get it. All right, so you can see there's a little bit of glue right there. I'm just gonna cut it off. All right, so finishing up this one. And then here's that whole foot and here's the 1/2 foot. So you're just gonna end up putting that join part on the bottom. So starting with the 1/2 foot, I am going to take sewing thread and I'm going to make a knot, come in from the bottom and just make a toe. The easiest toe ever is just looping the thread over the top. Okay, so I'm starting about 1/4 of an inch down from the top, maybe just a little larger, and then I'm just looping it over a couple of times so that when I pull it a little bit, it makes a toe shape. I shared how to do this on the Scandinavian Sweeties Easter Bunny, but this method works, and I just totally messed up my threads right there. So I did go over it 2 times, but you can go 3 times depending on how much you want to show. And then I'm going to move it just a little bit over, and I do the same exact process up through, over, up through, over. And that way I have 3 toes. You can make 4 toes, you can make 5 toes, you can make 8 toes. This is just for inspiration. Look, I got a knot. Oh, I'm so good at hand sewing. So my point is, if I can do this, you can do this. I am not good with the thread. All right, so after I get that looped over a couple of times, I'm just going to make sure that I knot it on the bottom where I started. And you're going to do that with the other foot as well. Now on the other foot, I chose to put the knot on the top of the foot because I wanted the bottom of the foot, the part that's kicked out, to be nice and seamless with no knots. And there you go. You can see, there we have a couple of toes. See? All right, so how it's going to work is this one's going to go over here. We're going to cut a hole in it, but not yet. So I'm going to repeat the toe situation on the other side with this. And again, I'm starting on the top of the foot so I can hide that knot there. I am going to skip this. It's literally the same thing we just did. There we go. Now I have 2 little feet. Hello, feet. Oh, well, that one's upside down. All right, so now for the attachment, I'm just going to glue this on, making sure that I do get glue on the fleece for a more secure attachment. Ready? Biggity bam. And for the other one, I'm going to figure out where it needs to be, and then I'm going to glue down the very back and that top front piece. And then I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut a little X into the fabric so that I can just press my wooden dowel right through that hole. Just making sure it's secure, cutting out a little hole, and then just pressing it through. Oh, that napkin over there, I cut myself pretty bad with that X-Acto knife, so you'll see me change my manicure and come back to this about a week later. But it's flush, and I'm going to show you what it looks like up close. All right, and that is not, the fleece at the ankle is not glued down or anything yet. All right, and so we got a little bendy leg here, again, not glued down. A week later, you can see I just left this all on my desk. On the arms, I'm going to use my wire and the medium-sized rollers. I'm going to use a grapevine heart, some felt, and a dowel for my arrow. For the little skirt, I'm using a pink Mickey fleece. That's it. I'm going to make a sash out of that too. And then for the wings, I'm using these pre-made, it's like a really fuzzy pipe cleaner from the kids section. For hands, I'm using foam balls, a belly button foam balls. And speaking of foam balls, this is a 2-inch foam ball. I'm going to pop it right on top of the pool noodle. Boop! Doesn't need to be perfect. We're not going to see it. For the hands, I'm using the larger of those gold foam balls, but for the belly button, I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'm going to string together some embroidery thread and make a big knot like that. I'm going to make sure we have 2 tails so that we can put both strings of the tails through that foam. And that way our little knot shows up at the very top. I'll glue it down. And then I'm just going to tie it underneath so that it stays forever and ever. But I'm not going to put it on yet because I want to make the little skirt that I'm making. I cut 2.5 inches high by the entire width plus some of my body, and then I'm just going to attach that partially because I think now's the best time to attach our legs just so that we don't have to work around the skirt. So I'm going to pop out both of my legs here and here. I'm going to add glue to the wood dowel up here, and then I'm going to flip it over, add glue into the wire hole that we made, press that up, and then I'm also going to glue where the fabric and foam meet the body, right? So that leg is now forever in place. And then you can also, at this point, glue your leg into the wood or do that later. All right, so here I'm just going to attach this all the way around. In the back, I left a little tiny bit open at the bottom. And then I'm going to make a sash. And I'm just using the same exact fabric. Remember, I cut it a little long, so I'm just going to use that same exact fabric at the longer length and then not even tie it. I just sort of loop it through once, and now I'm going to glue down the 2 strings into place so it looks like a tie. All right. Next up, I'm going to add this cute little belly button, and I'm just going to put it right over the top of the skirt and sash. For my little arrow, I just cut 2 felt hearts and put a piece of a dowel in between them, and then I cut 2 chevron shapes for the back. And this is like just under 6 inches. I wanted it to be pretty big. You can do whatever you want. For the arms, I'm going to use these medium-sized foam rollers from the Dollar Tree. But you see how I'm taking the wire and wiggling it all the way through all of those rocks, the pipe, the pool noodle, and everything. That is what we want because those rocks are going to help it not tear through everything. We're also going to put a fabric section so we don't have any tearing. So mine ended up being about 4.5 inches long. You know, you're going to measure it for whatever you want, but I did end up like looping over the ends of the wire just to make sure it didn't poke out or anything. All right, so once I have that, I'm actually going to cut, instead of 4.5 inches, 5.5 inches because I need fabric on both ends of my arms that is glued. So I'm going to leave a little bit at the top, leave a little bit at the bottom, and I'll show you why that matters. We're just going to wrap it the same exact way we did everything else. Just cover them up. You can add elbows if you want. I was not feeling that creative. So I'm going to put the seam facing down, and then I'm going to take the edge and put the end all the way up. You see how the fabric overlaps? That's what we want. And the other end, I'm just going to add the gold ball and then put hot glue to secure that all in place at the end. And do the same for the other arm, again, leaving the 1/2 inches on either end. Now, this is just me testing colors, but I wanted to show you, I am going to be coloring the fur in a way I never have and don't recommend, but I'm showing you what I'm doing, right? So for my wings, you can use my free wing pattern templates if you want, but I just took this pipe cleaner I had in my stash. I made 2 loops with a split in the center, so it has like an inch in the center that is straight. Then I added an inch hanging off the back and cut all the fluff off of it so that I can twist it around and then stick it directly into the pool noodle. So to do that, I just popped in that seam. I just used a piece of wire, pop a hole, and then press this in. And now I'm going to secure both the inside of the hole and just along right here with hot glue. And let that set before I shape the wings. To shape the wings, I just squished my 2 loops together up and then pointed them down like little tiny baby wings. I should not be allowed to do this for a living. Okay, so for the top, I'm cutting a round in fur. Now, it doesn't have to fit your entire top here. Mine was about 2.5 to 3 inches. I just used a circle. But what I wanted to do was have a wild hair look at the top. Because you can see this edge, I'm going to do the beard a little bit differently. For the beard, I measured mine's about 8 inches. I ended up cutting a little bit off. I'm going to make it 1.5 inches high. I only want an inch drop, but I'm going to fold over the very top so it's all nice and seamless and you don't see any fabric backing, because we want to cover up the fabric backing we can see on our little circle piece. So this is what it looks like when it's ready. But before I put it on, I am going to glue down the arms to the body in this part, like just that fabric extra bit on both sides. So the actual foam is not glued to the body. Next up, I'm going to line this up to the very top of my fleece, and then I'm going to glue it right to the body. Again, you can see it's over where we glued the circular piece of felt, and it is also going over the joins in the fabric on the arms. And this allows us to have nice bendable arms, no ripping at all. Okay, so this is how I colored this. I highly don't recommend it. It took me forever, but I just colored the tips with this very light color alcohol ink marker all the way around. Do that before you put on the fur, because this was the longest part of this project. All right, for the nose, I split the fur to its fabric backing and added one of those foam gold balls from the Dollar Tree to match the hands and the belly button. And then I'm going to use a gold ribbon sort of thing that I got. It's wired, but it has these little gold leaves that I thought were really cute, and I ended up putting little sprigs of little beads on what looks like fishing wire. I got that at Hobby Lobby. I glued on the heart to act as my bow, and then I glued on the arrow on the top of the arm on the underside, and he was done. You can see here, he's a lot. He's got a lot of detail. I love the little foot, but what do you think? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you for being here. As always, please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I'm making Valentine's Day Gnome Couple with an adorable little love note and a cute bouquet. If you would like to make them with me, just boop and boop. Stick around. As always, please give this video a like so that I know you're here crafting with me. So you can see this little cutie was either sewn or hot glued. It works both ways. We're going to combine 2 patterns. We're going to create bendable hats so we can make that cute little heart join in the middle. I'm going to be using felt, fleece, polyfill, and poly pellets. These are non-odor, non-moisture absorbing items that I use to weight my gnomes. I'll put all of the supplies listed below, but you're going to need something for the nose. You're going to need Mongolian fur or yarn or anything for your beard and your braids. Now, I'm going to be using first the body and base from the free felt traditional gnome pattern. I'll put the link down below to that. We're just going to cut it out from premium felt, which is that thicker felt, and we're going to attach the base. It doesn't matter whether you sew or you hot glue the base on. It's just important that in the next step, you have this part really well attached. So go ahead, pull all of your seams on this, give it a yank, make sure there are no holes and that you have a solid base. We're going to then put in 1/2 cup of poly pellets for weight. And I just do that with a funnel because these bodies are pretty small. For the rest of it, about 1 inch to the top, I'm going to stuff the body full of polyfill. And I do get asked a lot about how much polyfill. And the answer is when you can squeeze the body and it bounces back to its original shape, you have enough. Go ahead, roll it between your hands to distribute the fill, drop it on the table to make sure it lands where you want every time. Now, the other pattern we're going to be using is the Scandinavian Sweeties hat, the arms, and the mitten. Now, the mitten here, I'm doing it the quote hard way, which is to cut the pieces and then sew, but you can also sandwich 2 pieces of fleece together, draw on the pattern, sew to the seam allowance, and then just cut it afterwards. All right, so once you have the arms, the mittens, and the hat done, snip it, test all the seams, whether you've sewn or glued, and then flip everything right side out. Next up, we're just going to make the arms the easiest way possible, which is you just stick the arm right into the mitten and hot glue it on. You can also sew this on if you would like. You can add a trim, whatever floats your fancy right here. So here we have 2 arms. I'm going to repeat that for the little girl. For the little guy, I'm just putting 3 small foam flowers I got from Daiso Japan together, wrapping them like they had these long wires, and I just wrapped it all together and then covered that in a white 1/8 inch ribbon because he wanted to be fancy because he's giving them, this bouquet to the love of his life and all that. For the noses, I'm using a 1-inch wood round for the boy and a 3/4 inch wood round for the girl. For the beards and the braids, the 2 cuts are the same. I'm just using 1.5 inch wide by about 3 inches long of the fur. I'm going to trim off the 2 bottom corners of the beard, and that gives me a nice little shape that's going to come together in the center so that his beard isn't like all over the place when we put the flowers in his hands. Now for the girl, I put the material on, put the faux fur on, split it down the center, and then put the nose right below it. And that way it looks like 2 ponytails on the side. All right, so for the guy, I'm just making sure to get this beard on. You can either glue like I'm doing here or hand sew. If you are sewing, go ahead and stitch that fabric all the way around the outside edge. For the arms, again, glue or sew them down. I'm gluing because I'm lazy. I did use pins to make sure everything was in the right place. And for the nose, this is a much bigger nose than the little girl, so I wanted to put it a little bit higher because it is a little larger. And this way, just the bottom's going to poke out. It's going to be cute. All right, and now here I'm giving him a faux mustache by just splitting the Mongolian fur right on the outside of the nose. And I'm just going to bring those 2 points together. And you can save this style if you want by putting a UV resistant hair mousse or gel and or a hairspray. I prefer not to put any of those in because they do yellow over time. All right, so here I'm going to just flip up the front of the hat, and I'm doing this because I'm lazy and I didn't want to hem the hat. But we're going to take care of the rest of it. You don't really need a hem on it. So for the bendable hat, you need 2 things. Number 1 is polyfill, and the second is floral wire. This is floral wire from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to loop over one end over the edge of a pen, stick it all the way up along that back seam into the tip, and then I'm going to add glue right into this little sewn channel here. If you did hot glue your hat, just put that right next to the nice rigid seam of that hot glue. Just make sure you don't let the top of the hat fall into the hot glue. All right, so to get the bottom, you're just going to bend the bottom over of that wire, pop it all the way down that back seam, and then kind of poke it out the bottom until you can see it. Turn that 90 degrees. And then make sure you stuffed your hat all the way through the tip, because this body is a lot smaller, and so you have a lot of generous leeway in here. If you want to make a really scrunchy hat, you can just make a shorter wire, or make a, you know, like kind of bend the wire down on itself. You can make a tall hat like we have right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach that nose on first, and then I'm going to faux hem all of the rest of it. Just making sure that I put the front all the way down over the edge of that beard, and then I'm gonna make sure I get the back seams aligned, and the side of that hat goes over each of the arms, covering up where they join. That's it. And then I'm going to hot glue his little hands together. Now, I thought of this later, because I have made these at least 18 months ago. You could put two little pieces of Velcro there, and then you could always be able to adjust whatever he's holding. But I didn't think of that till right now. So let's make the little envelope. So all I did was, you can see she's still pinned over there. I didn't even have her finished, but I just measured. I wanted about a 2-inch wide envelope, and I needed 3 inches high, because I'm going to flip up the bottom inch here, like just like that, and then flip down the top, and it's going to kind of overlap. It's not going to be all the way to the line, but all I'm doing here is just making a note on there with a pen about how to round off a corner, and then I'm just going to cut both sides off, because I'm lazy. You can cut this with your Cricut. I think they even have an envelope, like a free envelope thing in Cricut Design Space. But at this point, I wanted a little bit of extra, because I'm extra, and I just wanted to make a heart out of embroidery thread. But then I realized I don't know how to embroider, so I took a pen and made a little heart right on it, and then just filled that in with vertical lines. See? You can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm not very good at hand embroidery. But once that was done, I just took the same color thread, and then I went in and out all the way along the outside of the bottom of my envelope. Now, this, I didn't backstitch it. I just went in and out just so I wouldn't put something important in here or sand, but it held. I mean, it looks cute too. So I just went all the way around until I got to the other side, and then I just hid that under the flap. You can see I got lazy holding it there too, so I just put a clip. But I'm just gonna tie that off and then tuck it after I cut it right into the envelope. Again, if you have some Velcro, it'd be a really good idea to put a little Velcro dot right here. But I used hot glue because I didn't think of the Velcro way back when. I know a lot of people have been asking me about this little pair of gnomes. They have been in my craft room for more than a year and a half, and you always see them when I when I give you like little snippet shots there. I'm just decided to share these, even though the image quality isn't up to par with my normal stuff. I had made these on a whim just to see if I could. All right, so now for the envelope, I just had to hold this here. Again, you can sew this to her little hands or use Velcro, but I chose to use hot glue and just held it there until it was dry so it didn't shift. And just parted her little pigtails right down the middle. I didn't even tie them off. I just pushed them together. And that's this cute little Valentine's Day gnome couple. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? You can get all of the supplies and the patterns below. And hey, as always, thank you for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi there, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making twisted heart gnomes. Ooh, look at that cool tower, and it comes to a heart. This is actually pretty simple. It's no-sew project, and of course we have some clay, cups, a little guy and his girl. Boop, and you gotta give him a boop. If you'd like to make it, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. And we're gonna start out with some knee socks, some toddler socks. We have clay noses and hands. We have this homespun yarn, felt, and faux fur. We're also going to add a little bit of floral wire into these. So we're gonna fill this one with rice and You can use whatever. I use poly pellets and rice, but whatever you're using, we want to make these a little heavier than normal. We want their bodies to be nice and firm and heavy so that they can hold this hat. And then what we're going to do is, you can put about a cup or just under a cup of rice in there, and then add a little polyfill to bring it up and to soften the whole thing. And we're just going to squish it around, roll it in our fingers, and tie it off with a piece of twine. You're going to repeat that for the other gnome. And again, we're just going to add the rice, add the poly, and then add the twine. Okay, so now the way you're going to cut these is very long and skinny. So what we want to do is we want to cut it in a triangle, and we want it to be cutting off the heel. We're going to use all of these socks, okay? So just watch here. You don't need a pattern. We're just going to cut it all the way up. And what we're going to do is, you see we're coming to a bit of a point here. We're going to turn them inside out and then secure them with glue. So you can see at the bottom there, they're not cut all the way down. So we're just going to start where the cut is, and we're just going to add a little hot glue and then fold it over. There we go. I'm kind of a mess with hot glue sometimes. Sometimes I'm spot on. Sometimes it's tragedy. So we're just going to use the hot glue all the way up. Now you can sew these, nothing's stopping you from adding a little sewing machine action in here, but we do try and make things easy around Ruffles and Rain Boots, especially holiday crafts. I just think they should be super easy, because if they're too much involved, I just don't want to do them, and then my house stays in fall like the entire year. Okay, so now that you've done your socks and then turned them inside out, what we're gonna do is we're going to add our floral wire. You can bend the tip with your scissors so it doesn't poke through, and then we're gonna start stuffing the polyfill. So you can use, you know, your blunt scissors, you can use a pencil, paintbrush is what I'm using. But what we're doing is we're adding polyfill, and then we're gonna roll it in our hands. You see how I'm rolling it? And what's that? It's gonna help distribute our polyfill, because it's not a lot of polyfill we're using, it's just very narrow. So you have to make sure you're not putting a whole lot at the top and nothing at the bottom. So you can see I'm doing this repeatedly. I'm stuffing up some polyfill, rolling it, stuffing up some polyfill, rolling it. All right, now that you have both of them, we're gonna tuck the bodies into the hats to make sure we like everything. Now for the form, all you're doing is wrapping, I just used a scrap piece of cardboard here. You're just gonna make a form out of the cardboard, wrap it for however thick you want. I'm using a homespun yarn. It's really cool when it gets brushed out. And I'm just securing the top of it. And then we're gonna cut the bottom and just break it all into individual strands as opposed to the loops. Okay, so now we're just brushing the beard, and you can use a comb, a dog brush, a cat brush, anything you have. And you see how it's kind of separating there, but it still has all these really cool strands and strings. Just gives it a lot of dimension. All right, so next up is trimming the beard. You're just setting it next to your gnome and seeing how long you would like it. And then you're just sort of V-ing off the bottom, if you like that look. I do. So we're just gonna add a little hot glue, a lot of hot glue, and we're just gonna put that onto the gnome directly and pull down his little hat. See? Super easy, super duper easy actually. And don't worry, you can see the hat kind of looks a little bulbous there. We're gonna fix that, don't worry. We're gonna add our nose on for our fella. And I like the look where you tuck it up under the hat a little bit. You don't have to do that, but I just think it's super adorable. So once our gnome, excuse me, once our gnome nose is on, we add a little hot glue to the very top and make sure to squish down that sock so that when we start pulling and tugging this hat everywhere, it stays still. All right, so we're gonna glue down the back of the hat. So now we have the front tacked and the back is going to be tacked. And that's it, because I'm gonna make some arms to hold cups. If you don't want to, skip that step. Now for the girl, you're just gonna do the same thing, but a little thinner. We're gonna do 2 times of our same process for our beard. We're gonna wrap it around, tie it off, cut the bottoms, and then brush it out. Brush it, brush it, brush it, brush it, brush it, brush it out. And then we're going to use a clip. If you have a clipboard, which I still can't find mine, it's been like a year. I should probably just buy a new one. But if you want, put a clip down onto the table with one of your sets in it, add a little masking tape and braid. That's it. And if you want to make a really narrow braid at the bottom, you can start shaving off and cutting off little pieces of your yarn on the way down. But I just tied it off with a little bit of ribbon that matches my soon-to-be apron and hat. And then I do the same thing at the top. I just, the top is a little less important, so you don't have to make it look pretty because it's gonna be tucked up under a hat. And we're just going to repeat the process for the braids. And I'm just measuring them to make sure they're pretty similar in style. And then we're just gonna glue it on. So my little gal's braids, I wanted them hanging down onto the table when she's standing up. So I'm just gonna tack a bit of hot glue here and here. Now, I do tack the braids all the way down just because I have dog, kid, and let's just face it, I like to play with these guys. So I like to tack the braids all the way down. That's me. You don't have to. And we're gonna follow the same step of making the nose, putting it on, and tacking down the back of the hat and the front of the hat. And now we're using a piece of that sock that we have left over. I told you we're gonna use all of this thing. And I'm just measuring by eyeball how wide I want my little apron to be. See, it's just kind of a little rectangle of fabric. It's not fancy. And now we're gonna do Sarah's hot glue hemming. I'm so very good at nowadays. Again, you can put this onto a sewing machine. The idea still stands. No matter how big your gnomes are or how small your gnomes are, you can follow these exact instructions with felt, with fabric, with socks, whatever you want. Okay, so we're just going to make sure that we've got it on the right size to the body. And now we're going to make the little straps. So we're just making teeny tiny little straps, and I'm gonna cut off one end to make it look pretty and just measuring the length here. And then we're gonna do it for the second little piece. Again, these are tiny little scraps. You can see maybe an inch or two. You don't need a lot. But I'm going to put the apron straps over top because I wanted a little bit of accoutrement, so to speak, with some embellishments. I got these little teeny tiny roses at the craft store, and I've had them forever, and well, now I know what I'm doing with them. So I just put them on there, and now it's time to make our mugs. You can skip this, you can buy these off Etsy, but you're just rolling a log. We used white glitter clay. You can use whatever color you want. We made a marshmallow shape, about an inch-ish big, and then we copied that same design and rolled out another snake, a pretty thick snake, but inside the size of our mug. So that'll be our red hot cocoa. Because it's Valentine's Day. What else would one drink? Okay, so now we're going to roll two different snakes. The first is going to be a snake that we squish down like this because it's going to be our brim of our cup. So we're just making sure it's even-ish, squishing it down, and then we're just gonna put it onto our cup, cut it off there, and now you're gonna roll it just to make sure it adheres everywhere, and then we're gonna just make sure that indentation is shown again. And then it's time for another snake, but a little thicker, and he's our handle. So you're gonna wanna use your fingers or a knife or paintbrush or whatever to really make sure that polymer clay gets stuck down there. And then you're gonna bake them. Bakety bake bakes. It takes about 20 minutes or so. If you have a craft toaster oven, which is what I have, it works perfectly. All right, and now if you don't have to make this step if you're not making, anything to hold, if you don't like gnomes with arms, again, this is your creation, but I'm using the scraps that we cut off from the socks for the hats. I'm using those to make arms. So we're just gonna cut them in half, and again, it doesn't matter what they look like. You can use the felt too. See that big piece of felt over there? Whole lot of that left. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just going to make our hems, and we're folding the outsides into the center so that all of the hem is taken care of. And then, so you can see I'm folding it in on itself. I'll show you a little bit closer. And it's, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? We're gonna make these as small or large as you want, a small or large to hold whatever you want. But we're just making sure right here, we're test fitting them to make sure that they are big enough with the little hands to hold whatever it is we're making. And then we're gonna affix our hat and hands down. And on the other side, watch that you don't get the beard in there. Okay, so I use little polymer clay hands, but you can make felt mittens, you can use wooden beads, whatever strikes your fancy. And I'm just gonna attach those hands. And you can see I had to squish off a little hot glue, so I'm gonna put a little more down on the bottom, and he's done. And now we're gonna do the same thing with our little girl. Ticky-tacking that hat down, making sure our hands are on and that they come together in the center. Now, while your polymer clay is baking and cooling, because it has to cool too, we're gonna twist these hats. There is no rhyme or reason to this, you're just gonna twist them. And we are gonna secure it in a minute, but what we wanna do is you're gonna wanna keep standing these guys and gals up so that their bodies are flat on the table and you still get the twist, because we need them to be the same height for our heart to come together. It'll be so pretty. And you can see I'm kind of squishing and rolling those hats in my hands so that it all works out. So we fix the hat together in the twist, and then we just form the heart at the top with a little dab of hot glue and kiss the two pieces together. Isn't that cute? All right, so again, you can see the white here. We're gonna kind of fluff everything around when we stand these guys and gals up for the last time. But here we are. We're just going to attach our polymer clay however you want. I chose for him to be holding the handle and the other side of the mug, just right there in front of him. And then I turned the other mug so it went the other way, because symmetry is kind of fun, and affixed hers as well. And then when you stand them up, they look like this, and they're super cute. So let me know what you think of this craft. Let me know in the comments if you think these are fun, adorable, or if it gives you an idea, boop, for something else. As always, please like this video, it helps us so much, and subscribe to Ruffles and Rainbows for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com here with an easy couple of ways to make some sweet little gnomes. Boop, boop. If you would like to make them, just stick around. As always, please give this video a like so that I know you're here crafting. So I have one guy who is a cute little treat guy, and then I have a fully stuffed gnome. Now I had no plans to make these until I actually got this fur in from Amazon. This is a beautiful blush colored fur. The pile's about 2.5 inches, but it's a strange color, but it's very pretty. As part of my Use It or Lose It series from my craft room, I'm going to use these treat bags from the Dollar Tree, a 3/4 inch wood ball, you can use anything for a nose, and some fabric. I'm going to be using a glue gun, some scissors, and an X-Acto knife. So I had a lot of people ask me when I gave away a free gnome pattern for sewing if we could do the box pleat bottom with a hot glue gun. Absolutely. Turn a rectangle bag inside out, fold down the outside corner. So it doesn't matter if there's a seam, it doesn't matter if there's an edge, just make sure that you are gluing it to the bottom and not to the side. So I put my hand through in the bottom. You see how it was tucked over to the side? So just protect your fingers if you still have fingerprints from your crafting. All right, so you're gonna let that sit. You can add a little extra glue if you want. Let it sit before turning it right side out. And you can see here you have a nice little box bottom. Isn't that cute? The great thing about a box bottom is it's pretty handy, and we're going to be filling it. So I'm going to show you in a little bit how to do the big one, but I'm going to have some candy here. It's almost Valentine's Day preparation time. So this is me figuring out a few things that I can do. So I'm popping in a couple of, what are those? Ring pops. I hate gummy candy. There's something you may not have known about me. But yeah, I give away all the gummy candy I can. Now, if your bag is not sitting up, you can use a cardboard circle. You can use a jar lid, or you can use one of these 8,000 wood round ornaments that you have in your craft room. Either way, just add in everything you can, tighten the bag up, and then tie it into a bow, because this is a true treat bag gnome, right? All right, so here's a fun little doodah. We're going to create our own gnome hat pattern. Now, slouchy gnome hats are the easiest gnome hats to make. I'm going to use just enough in the width to go around and add about a 1/2 inch to an inch, whatever you feel comfortable with, in order to accommodate the nose and the beard. And that's going to give me my first cut. I'm just making a tiny little slit in the fabric. I'm using a Dollar Tree cutting mat that I stole from my daughter to cut about a 9-inch tall hat. Now, 8 inches will work. 6 inches is going to be too small. So if you're working with like a cotton or you're working with fleece, it doesn't matter. For those of you wondering, this is a luxe fleece. Now, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but let me show you the downside. Do you see the downside? Look at this. It gets everywhere. You will have to vacuum. All right, so on that long edge that goes around the body, I'm just going to fold up the bottom brim so that I can trap in all of that shedding. And then I'm going to put right sides together. So not this way, this way. So you can see the brim. Okay, so and I'm going to get my ruler back out, the cutting mat. And then if you want a cool slouchy hat that's going to cover everything and have a good rise, anything under 10 inches, actually anything under 9 inches is going to get a 2-inch rise over here. So you go up 2 inches and then cut. Do not cut to a perfect point at the top. It'll be harder for you to get a perfect point when you turn it inside out, especially if you're using hot glue. So again, we are working on the right side or the pretty side of the fabric here. We're going to add hot glue and fold it over. With fleece, you just need to tap. You don't need to press it down. Oh, my hot glue gun stick is coming out. All right, so now we're just going to make sure we get the top here. And again, tippity tap, tap, taps, no need to press it. So I get a lot of questions about that, how you can't see my seam. I don't press the two pieces of fabric together, especially if I'm working with fleece. All I do is just tippity tap, but you have to let it set. Many people have burned themselves not letting it set. Please don't. All right, pop your finger all the way down to the edge, bring it out, and then use the rounded portion of your scissors if you can't get a nice big point at the top. Always check this seam to make sure you have everything in place. And then I'm going to put the seam edge on the side of the body, okay? So I'm going to have a floppy hat. I'm going to create my own little pom-pom that matches my beard. Ooh, speaking of beard, let's get this beautiful Amazon blush. If you want the link to this, I'll try and remember to put it down below. I'm going to cut a 2-inch by 2-inch square. Super easy, super fun. Use an X-Acto knife, a razor blade, or a box cutter. Put the pile of fur facing down and then just cut very simply and carefully the faux fur fabric backing. Look at this. Biggity. Ooh, bam. Look at that beautiful, beautiful little piece of fur. Now, we are not going to glue it to the treat bag. We're going to glue it to the inside of the hat. The reason we're doing that is to keep everything separate. You can use this as a bottle topper. So if you want to give a bottle of wine, it'll be super cute. Or you're delivering something like a mason jar gift. This works for those too. In order to attach the nose, just split the fur to the fabric backing really close to the brim. And then all you're going to do is glue it on and then glue the hat down to the top of the nose. And you're done. Or you can be extra, like me. I'm going to cut a 1-inch square of faux fur. Just 1 inch by 1 inch. Again, pile of fur goes down. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to just cut the fabric backing. Yank! And then we're going to use our hot glue gun and take all of the corners into the center. This is how you make a quick little pom-pom. Okay, no. I'm feeling a little frisky, friends. I don't know why I sang. I will refrain from singing in the future. All right, one more little corner here. By the way, this is real time. Like, this takes no time at all. You're almost done. All right, slip it on, put the seam on the side, fold down your hat, and add a little glue to the little end of your hat. Put the ugly side of your pom-pom where all the seams are against that, and then glue down the side of the hat. Guess what? This guy is done. Isn't he cute? But let's be extra and make a big one. This is a 7 by 9 inch bag from the Dollar Tree. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to glue it down, making sure we are not gluing it to the side of the bag. So we pop something inside, do the other side. Now, the bigger bag you go, it's a good idea to add a little extra hot glue on anything lifted. Once it sets, you're just going to turn it right side out, make it flat. Add whatever amount you want. I'm adding a cup of poly pellets for a good bit of weight because I'm about to stuff them until they can't be stuffed anymore. Before I pull it tight, make sure it's sitting flat, and then I'm going to cut these strings off because they're neon pink and I got a blush thing going on. All right, so we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So again, we're going to wrap it around the body of our gnome, allowing about an inch or so extra. Then you can go as high or as long as you want. It's really cute when you make a super tall one. This one is about 11 inches. And then we're going to have to clean up, just pull all this stuff off. I love this luxe fur. I get it at Joann's, but whew, she messy. All right, I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom here. I'm just going to add a brim. Don't burn yourself if you like your fingers. Oh, look at that. I broke my promise. I said I wouldn't sing. All right, right sides together. Now, when you're making the big end hats, you want to go at least 3 inches up for a rise. And again, don't go to a point. It'll be harder. So just go where you have maybe a quarter to a half inch, a little bit at the top. See that up there?
And we're gonna have to pull all this stuff off again, clean up our workspace so I don't look like a slob. And then it's time to glue it right sides together. I have buzz all over me. What a great day to wear black. All right, so same thing here. We're gonna slip on the hat with the seam at the side. Now for this one, I'm gonna make a 4-inch beard. You can make it a U shape. You can make it a V shape. This one's gonna be a square shape. Boom, because I really love this beautiful pink. I'm gonna glue this one directly to, whoopsie, get the hat out of there. I'm gonna glue the beard directly to the body of this guy. I'm also going to show you how to use a wood bead. I get this question a lot. You can absolutely use a wood bead with the holes in it if that's what you have on hand. We're just going to tuck one end of the bead right into the actual body, and then the top one will be covered by the hat. So you split the fur to the fabric backing and then add glue there. Adhere your nose, and that way it won't come off. If you just glue it to the fur, it's more likely to pop off. Be sure to glue your fur all the way around and down, and then add a little hot glue to the top of the nose or to the brim of the hat, and put that in place before you glue the entire hat all the way around. Get that on there. Fold over or flop over the side, and let's be extra again. So I'm going to try and make a pom-pom with this extra little bit here that's wonky. I don't like wasting faux fur, especially something this pretty. So I'm going to take this little L shape or Tetris shape, and I'm going to make the same kind of thing, a pom-pom. Again, all of the ugly stuff is what we're actually going to glue on. So just fold it in on itself, make sure that it's set, roll it in between your hands or bang it on the table a couple times to make it floofy, and then I'm gluing down the side of the hat to the hat, and then gluing on the ugly side of the pom-pom to that nice flat bit we have over here. Now you can add additional decorations, but yeah, I'm done. This is in natural light, no additional editing. What do you think of them? Let me know down in the comments below. These are some of my favorite of the year so far. As always, thanks for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com here with another free pattern, this one for a Valentine's Day gnome. If you would like to make it with me, just boop, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here. Now this gnome takes about 5 minutes. The first one will take you 7, but it's super fun to make, and all you need is the Dollar Tree cup. It's 9 ounces. It does go larger, so if you can't find that one, it's fine. I'm going to give you a free pattern for the body and the hat, and we're going to cut 2 by 2 inch square of the beard fabric, whatever you use. I'm using Z fabric in pink. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch wood round for the nose, and then something to decorate with. There are 2 ways to make this, and the first is to cut off right at your brim. So if you want to add a decorative trim or something like that, it would be easy, but I'm going to use the quicker and easier method of just flipping it under. As you might have guessed, we're just going to go ahead and glue this directly to the cup. I know. Line up the very top, and then everything else will fall into place. You can also be sure, if you're using a thinner felt, be sure to squish down your hot glue so you don't end up with those big hot glue lines. And the final thing I'll say is there's 2 ways you can do the overlap because it's designed for bigger cups. You can leave the overlap and glue it down or cut it off like I did. I'll be sharing different ways to do this. Yeah, we need some better scissors. So by the way, when you cut this thicker felt, use sewing scissors. And I love these. These things are insane. They're from Singer. I got them on Amazon. I love them. They cut through it like butter. Okay, so we're just cutting about 1-inch tabs all the way around, and we're going to glue these tabs right down. Start with the tab that is underneath. So you want the overlap tab to be the last one you do, okay? So start with whatever side you glued down first, and then just go all the way around the inside of the cup. This is real time. This part's sped up, but basically it's going to take you about 7 minutes to make each of these if you don't do an assembly line style. You may want to do assembly line style because I'm going to show you a cute little treat jar to make with this. All of the beards are going to be 2 by 2 inch squares. If you're new to cutting faux fur, protect your work surface. Put the pile of the fur all facing down and use an X-Acto knife to only cut that fabric backing. It's super easy. You can use a razor blade or a box cutter as well. But you see that? No transfer. Look how pretty you are. So floofy. All right. you're going to line up the beard about a half inch away from that top edge. That's just so you can cover most of the front body. I am gluing it in front of the seam that I made just to cover that up, but you know, you do you. You can decorate that seam if you want. Make sure the glue is all the way down, catching all four corners as well. Once you have that on, it's time to put on a nose. I'm using a wood round, which means I'm going to split the fur to the fabric backing so that I see that little piece of mesh right there. I'm going to add hot glue to that, a generous amount, and then press on my wood ball. So you can use a pom-pom, you can use fabric fill, polyfill, anything you have on hand. I'm just brushing that fur down. You can do this with your fingers. And now the hat. The hat is designed to slip over the very top of the nose, but you can raise it up or whatever. Just make sure you can overlap this back bottom piece and glue that in place. Now, here's a tip. I like to glue it on the body and then pull it off so no glue seeps through. And then I'm going to hold that until it sets completely, and I'm just going to go up. So you'll see I'm going to glue down a little extra piece here, and then I'm going to go up to the top, right up here. Do protect your fingers if you don't have fingernails. I just ripped open that, by the way, accidentally, because I didn't let my glue set. All right, so now we're going to glue the little piece I glued already. There you go. And that's it for the hat. Now you can decorate it with trim. I can't find any of my trim yarn. Of course, I haven't unpacked all my stuff in my craft room. But as you can see, we got a nice little cone hat, super simple and super quick. Just slip that on top and you can be done here. You don't have to glue it down. It is friction fit, but you can also just fill it with candy. Isn't that funny? I use lollipops, chocolates, sweet tarts. They all fit and they all stayed, and it's easy to take apart. Or you can put some polyfill in there and glue it down. You can also add a pipe cleaner along that back seam to make yourself a bendy hat. Isn't that fun? So I'm just going to glue this down, making sure I don't get faux fur anywhere onto it. Now, I hated this decoration. I hated this decoration. So I found a little wood heart sticker that matched the wood ball nose that I'm using. And I just used a little embroidery thread and just glued that on to where it dangled out the bottom a little bit. I did not glue mine on because, like I said, I'm going to find some trim. But look how cute this is. Oh, look at him. Oh, but what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below when you make him. Get the free pattern down in the comments as well. Like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun. Thanks for being here. Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com here with a free gnome pattern and a cutie for Valentine's Day. There's also a bit of rage. Boop! If you'd like to make it, just stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, as I mentioned, this is one adorable gnome made with a hot glue gun and a free pattern, but things go wrong, really wrong. Anyway, so we're going to start out with the free pattern, which can be found down below in the comments and description box. So we're going to cut one base, two arms, one body, and one hat. You need some faux fur. You need some like wood beads for your hands and for your nose. I'm using a 1-inch nose. And then you need a hot glue gun and some scissors. Okay, so to get started, I am putting the body right sides together. And yeah, we're hot gluing it, but we still need the pretty side facing in. So I'm just going to line everything up and glue this long straight edge together. This body type is the easiest type of hot glue body type you want. It doesn't matter if you're making a hook hat like this one or any other style. Now for this hat, we're going to do exactly like the pattern calls out, no additional seam allowance, because it's very similar to top stitching. We put the wrong sides of the fabric together and we're just lining up going on the outside edge and using a detail tip glue gun. Now why that's important is this hook right here. You can absolutely hand stitch this as well. I think I have that in the pattern as well. But for the hot glue, you're going to want to use something pretty precise because we do want to be able to stuff this hook. So in order to do that, you're just going to let that glue set and then take really small pieces of polyfill and stuff it in there. And you can use the skewer. I like to use whatever is closest to me, and that was the scissors. And then you're just going to add a little bit of hot glue, tippity tap it. You don't have to press it. If you press it together, you will see that like hard edge. So you just tippy tap it together, and it was perfectly fine. Then we're just going to add a little more stuffing, tippity tap. There you go, tip, tip, tap, add a little stuffing. Now, once you're past the hook, you can do it just a little bit more aggressively, but do wait for the hot glue to dry before moving on to the next step. So here you can see, I'm just gonna go to that yellow pin, which is what the pattern calls out. Now I'm going to do the cheater version of tailoring, and that is after we complete the item, now we can just hack off anything that isn't perfectly lined up. Isn't that nice? It's cheating, but it totally works. So use some precision scissors here to get under this hook and just get anything. If some hot glue came out, get that too. Now for the body, remember we put right sides together, so we want the right side to be facing into the body, and then we're going to pin it just to the right of the seam. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, now we're going to squish these two pieces together. Ready? And this one too. So you're just putting it right in half, and then you're going to join where those two halves meet, right here. Boop. And if you are sewing, you can do this the same exact way. If you are hot gluing, still use pins, or you can use fabric clips, but you're just going to split the difference between all of those pins every single time. And I usually leave about an inch or an inch and a half between it. I'm going to get the body out of the way, lay it down on the table, and just use my detail tip glue gun to add an edge of glue. And again, no need to press hard. We're just going to tap, 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 tap. Lightly tap it together. I am using fleece for this, but I have shown how to use felt as well. Additional ways that this free pattern calls out is to use a cone, use a sock. There's all kinds of stuff. You can hand sew it with a little embroidery stitch, like a blanket stitch. So cute. Set that aside to dry. And because these are teeny tiny and I don't want to have to deal with it, we're just going to do the right side of the fabric here and just glue this top edge over onto the bottom. And now you're going to get some arms. You don't have to use arms in this pattern. I've made it a lot without any arms. There are also tips on adding feet. You can also just use a heart, which would be super cute for this particular one. I'm using a bead to make a hand, but you can use mittens or little pieces of fabric tied up. There's my arms. I'm going to set them aside and start pulling on the body. I want to make sure that this is all together and there's no holes. It's not going to come apart because we are going to be adding weight. So once I get that done, I'm just going to turn it right side out and put this seam in between my fingers and rub it so that the seams sit flat. You want the body to be able to stand up on its own. I'm using a Lux, I also bang it on the table. I'm not violent, I promise. I also am using Lux fleece for this, which is a beautiful, like kind of velvety fleece. It's really pretty. Add a half a cup of weight and stuff the body full of polyfill ripped in small pieces. Go ahead and roll that between your hands, press down on the sides just to make sure it's all nice and distributed so that it bounces back when you squeeze it. All the way up to the tippy top. And now we're going to line up the hat and the body. Just line up the back seams. Easy peasy. I like to pin these little tails down just so I can start building the gnome without anything shifting around. Look at her. Well, it was a her, okay? And then it turned into a him. It was tragic. All right, so I'm just going to tuck these up under here, placing them. Just, you don't even have to pin these. They'll friction fit. Now, I decided to try these little tiny wood cutouts from the Dollar Tree. If you've done this before, you know what's coming. I didn't know. I've never used these before. That's too big, so I decide I'm going to use this cute little filigree heart. And then I notice that Be Mine added dirt. And then I became Beth Dutton for like 20 seconds. Ugh. So I wiped it off, and then I angry rage painted both sides white, two coats, and then I painted one side red to match my rage. I'm kidding. I was actually pretty upset because my whole plan got ruined. I was going to make a girl with cute little braids, and then now I'm going to make a boy because I need to cover up that big dirty spot. And so I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to cut a rando piece of faux fur that was going to be fine if I made it two pieces, but Now it's not going to be fine. So I'm just seeing, that'll work. I can hide that little spot up at the top with the nose. It's all about like swapping your plan when things go wrong, right? Doesn't mean I was any less rageful. This is a beautiful fabric, and it hurt. I screamed in frustration. So anyway, I'm just gonna glue this down all the way on the sides, making sure I have all the little random cuts. I try to use all the faux fur in my stash. I don't like wasting faux fur at all. If you've been here any time at all, you know that. All right, so now for that little part that's supposed to be covered, I'm going to actually pop a nose in there because it works. So I'm using a 1-inch wood round for my nose here. You can use a pom-pom, you can use fabric stuffed with polyfill, whatever your heart desires. That thing is just rolling all over the place. I'm going to glue it to the body first, and then I'm going to remove that and glue down the sides, just not the very front, but like right maybe 1/8 of an inch behind it. I'm going to get some trim. So I'm going to go and look for some trim. I tried to use a wipe to get this stuff off, but alas, it it was there to stay. So I'm going to protect the beard because I'm going to be gluing something to the inside of the little arms, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here on something raised so that it has a nice big spot to adhere, and again on the other side, and just pop that in place. And I do hold it until it sets and then remove the little tissue. Now it's time just to apply glue to the arms. And so you can glue the arms in place on either side and in the center if you would like. It will be covered up. While that glue is setting on this side, I'm just adding a little bit more polyfill in the hat to make that transition smoother. And then I do the other side, same thing, glue down the arm and add a little bit of polyfill to hide the transition. All right, now is the time to glue down the back here, and I glue down the entire tail. As I mentioned, I'm going to be adding a little bit of trim, but here's a surprise. Because I moved and I haven't unpacked all these totes, I can't find my fuzzy yarn. So I'm going to be using this Luxe fleece in a white. It's very fuzzy. It's very fun. So I just pinned it together, cut off a strip about 1.25 inches thick, and then I'm just going to glue each edge into the center, and that's going to give me a nice clean, no fray little piece of, quote, furry ribbon or yarn that I can use to trim out my gnome. Very few times do I scream in rage at a craft project, but this pink Luxe fur is just so pretty. It's at Joann's. You can get it online as well. I love it. It does shed a little bit, so you'll have to vacuum immediately after using it, but I really do love it. It looks amazing in person. So once I get the whole thing done, I'm just going to get the center, and I am going to cover up this little edge. So I'm putting it right just inside of the edge. You can see here where my glue goes. I know there's a lot of shadows. This stuff is like a lot of movement. It's beautiful, and it's super soft. So anyway, I'm just going to cover that all the way down, and then I'm going to like U-shape it, like to match my little U-shaped tails, and then do the other side as well. And do make that set, allow it to set all the way before you cut it off. And once you cut it off, you can just round it out, pull off any fallout, and then you are, look at that. Oh, I got to round that one off. But yeah, pull out all the fallout from the Luxe fur, and he's done. Supposed to be a she. I promise for all of you wanting girls, I will make a girl soon. I just do my drop test to make sure it falls flat every time. I do like it. What do you think? Let me know down in the comment section below. As always, thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Please like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun.
Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making a Dollar Tree Valentine gnome. This guy's a big guy. If you'd like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now look at this guy. He has a bendy hat. He's between 16 and 18 inches tall, and he's made really easily with all these Dollar Tree things. By the way, we're going to be tearing apart a stuffed animal. We're going to be using a men's long white sock, rubber band, some blush, felt, and any kind of scarf or anything you can find at the Dollar Tree that's fabric for his hat. So I'm starting out with a men's white sock, the inside of a pillow from the Dollar Tree, and I'm using poly beads. You can use rocks from the Dollar Tree. They have great gravel pieces that you can use, or even salt if left in the package. And we're just going to fill up this entire sock. I know, it's gonna be neat, because here's the thing. We are going to create a cone out of this sock. This is a very meaty little guy, okay? So you're gonna need quite a bit of weight in the bottom. Use at least a cup of whatever it is, because we're going to make a tall, skinny fellow. Leave the top open and begin pinching the back of the fabric together in the sock, and you're basically going to be making a conical shape. That's all. So in the bottom of the cone, towards the middle is where I started, and then I just gradually got smaller pieces, pulling and pulling. When I got to the top, I cut off a section. There you go. A nice little triangle to cut it off so I can roll that top. Now don't glue the very, very tip closed, because we want to put a wire or a chenille stem in there so that we can have a bendable hat. Okay, so here you can see I'm just twisting and gluing and getting it all secure in here, multiple layers, making sure it's all flat as can be. And then on that very tip, again, don't close it yet, because you can use Dollar Tree has a nice gauge wire. It's silver, black, or gold, or brass maybe. Anyway, you can use that. I was out of it, so I used chenille stems, which are also available at the Dollar Tree. So once you get it to this point, stand it up, roll it between your hands, make sure you like the shape it is. If not, just keep pulling and pulling, tugging and twisting. This is how I made this hat bendable. Again, super easy with the chenille stem, but you can do anything. And then I glued that top shut. All right, so I usually roll it in between my hands to distribute the polyfill evenly. Okay, so the next part is my rubber band breaks right here, snappity-doo-dah, so I just tie it together. But I would always recommend you using string or twine or something else to secure that piece, just in case, so it doesn't go anywhere when the rubber band snaps. That's a hair tie, so I just put a little blush from the Dollar Tree on his nose. Next up, this poor teddy bear, I cut off the bear. Like you can see the entire, whatever the biggest, fuzziest portion is. This bear is from the Dollar Tree, and it's sort of like a curly fur. And so all I did is I got the biggest piece I could get, and that was off the back, and then just shaped it into sort of a U. So you can see there's a little tuck up part of the nose. And so once I had that, I just glued that down with hot glue on either side. Again, I'm just making sure I like where everything is. Now for a mustache, if you wanted to make a mustache, I'm going to show you. You just take an arm, cut it in half after pulling out all the polyfill, and then sort of roll two little tubes, and it totally works. And they don't have to be perfect little squares or anything. You can see my, how would we call these, very uneven pieces, but it looks all the same once you roll it all up together. So you can see here, second side for the mustache, tucked right up and glued underneath the nose. Okay, so this is an infinity scarf from the Dollar Tree, and all I did was put the right sides, so the prettier sides together, and I cut off the bottom portion because I had to get two pieces. And then I made sure everything was flat and laid out, and then I'm just going to cut a very large triangle. So I was going to hem it, but I figured I'll just hem it in just a second. So, all right, so I'm just going to cut a very large triangle after I understand the height. I don't need a point at the top. So this is just Gnome Tips 101. You don't need a point at the top. It will come to a point with the glue. So we just open it, try and keep it as evenly there as possible, or you can pin it, because this is kind of one of those slick scarves, and just hot glue it all the way down the edge. We're going to give it a hot glue hem on the bottom in just a second. I'm going to fast forward through this so you don't have to watch me hot gluing all of this, but just do one side, then do the other. Easy peasy, right? Dollar store craft. All right, so now we're going to turn it inside out, and as you can see, it comes to a point where the hot glue has met at the tip. And then you can try it, test fit it on your gnome, and make sure you like where it is, because if it's a little too long or a little too scrunchy, you can just hem it a little bit more at the bottom. Conversely, you could use trim from a different stuffed animal, or a ribbon or yarn or anything you find at the Dollar Tree. But here I am. I'm just going to hot glue hem this all the way around. Won't bore you. I'm going to stick it on my little gnomey, And then I'm going to make a rose because I didn't find anything I liked or it was too big. So I'm just cutting an oval out of red felt, and then I'm going to just cut a spiral. Once I get to the middle, I'm just going to start adding a spiral going out and then adding on the hot glue a little bit on the bottom here and there. Cutting it off when I get the size I want, and there's my rose. So I'm going to glue that on and then cut 2 leaves. And so these are just a leaf shape and glued in the center, so it gives it a nice little bit of dimension. And cut 2 of those and glue those on right behind the rose. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I also tack down the hat on top of the nose and on the sides and the back. Now this part is totally optional. You can make little feet. This is a fuzzy sock I had left over, and all I'm doing is creating 2 little rectangle shapes. I'm going to stuff some polyfill inside of the center and glue it shut. It looks like a pom-pom, so if you have some black pom-poms hanging around, red pom-poms, bunny feet pom-poms, it doesn't matter. Just cut them and glue them to the base of our little guy here. Repeat with the second one, and guess what? You're all done. This is it. Look! He's huge. He's got a bendy hat. He's all made from Dollar Tree stuff. I like him. What do you think, though? Let me know in the comments below. Check out these other videos. Thanks for watching. And that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this set, but let me know down in the comments, what do you think of these? Which one is your favorite Valentine gnome? As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun.